Part 287. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2868. When Wu Deifu heard 50,000 yuan, he couldn't help but turn his head to look for Dewa, lowered his voice and said, "I want money to cut the knot." Dewa lowered her eyes and didn't respond. The Guo family said anxiously, "We are willing to choose the second method, paying her money for medicine and vegetables every day. 50,000 yuan, even if the Guo family can take out so much, it will empty the family. It is better to buy medicine and food for her every day. It is only 100 yuan a day when full. How much does it cost that year?" The Guo family can't quite figure it out, but they always think it's less than $500,000. Wu Deifu was a little anxious. After pulling a big flower, he said to Bai Shan, "Sir, we don't want them to buy medicine and vegetables. Who knows what they will add to it? We need 50,000 yuan to cut the knot." Bai Shan didn't look at him, but looked at the big flower and said, "What's your choice?" Dewa bit her lip. She also wanted money, but she knew in her heart that if she wanted money, it would be difficult for her to get that money. Not to mention eating eggs and meat, it would be difficult to even get medicine. With money, is Wu Deifu afraid that he won't be able to marry a wife? Dewa hesitated for a moment, and then heard Bai Shan patted the table and said, "But no matter what you choose, this county will not listen to you." Dewa looked up in amazement, and heard him say, "I let you choose whether to forgive the Guo family." To be fair, the Guo family will naturally have a chance to choose, and the way to choose compensation is their chance. The Guo family cried with joy, and this time they didn't feel that Bai Shan's requirements were strict at the beginning. Dewa also breathed a sigh of relief. The faces of Wu Deifu and Dai Funiang were ugly. The rich lady cried, "Then my grandson will die in vain? My lord, in the future, our Wu family will end." Bai Shan asked their mother and son, "Whose fault is this?" Wu Deifu, "Wise, are you not at fault for your child's death?" The mother and son choked. Bai Shandao, "Every murderer should be punished." The Ma family paid the price of hemorrhage and half-life. The Guo family paid the money. Naturally, you mother and son will also pay the price. He said bluntly, "If you mother and son dislike Ma's being unable to have children, this county can mediate and divorce for you." Dewa's face turned pale, and he said subconsciously, "No, no. Bai Shandao, of course, this county respects the wishes of each of you. One side wants to reconcile, but if the other side doesn't want to, the county will mediate a few more times, and it will definitely satisfy you." Wu Deifu didn't speak, but Dai Funiang couldn't help but ask, "Can we get the Guo family indemnity if Heli is from our family?" "No," Bai Shan said, "the Guo family's indemnity is for the Ma family. On the contrary, your Wu family needs to return the dowry to the Ma family, and at the same time give her a certain amount of support for the Jinan family." The rich girl screamed, "Why? She married in 2 years because of her good daughter's family, but she will be in ruins in 3 or 4 years, Bai Shan said. "She did not make a big mistake, since it is Heli, the county will naturally ensure the reasonable interests of both of you. De Fu Niang, she can't give birth to a son." Dewa's face turned pale. "Bai Shandao, she was born, she just died. Besides, one of the 7 births doesn't refer to boys. She has 2 daughters. You can't let her go with this one. It's still a fart with Heli, not to mention alimony, even if it is not given. After Heli, it is difficult for their family to marry a good daughter-in-law." De Fu Niang didn't say anything anymore, and De Hua quietly breathed a sigh of relief. Even if she was forced to do so, she didn't want to leave the Wu family. Bai Shan knows that the reason why the relationship between the neighbors in this alley has deteriorated so much is because of suspicion, and suspicion is even more taboo between husband and wife. That being the case, it is better to open up and say the worst results, and then seek a solution that best suits the interests of both parties. Bai Shan asked Wu Deifu, do you want to make peace with the Ma family? Wu Deifu looked up at Dehua, who was sitting next to him. Seeing that she was staring at him nervously, he couldn't help but blushed, and finally shook his head. This marriage, he cannot afford to leave. Bai Shan nodded, and the matter was settled. Then he glanced at the onlookers and raised his voice, the Guo family and the Wu family have been punished by themselves. It is understood that the next thing is to wait. He said, rumors are like a knife. This knife is invisible and intangible, but it is not duller than a knife with an edge. It does not cut people's bodies, but people's hearts. It can be said that a knife sees blood. This time, I also saw the power of the rumors. This county hopes that you will be friendly neighbors in the future. If there are disputes, how about giving each other a step? Bai Shan said, if the Guo family and the Wu family had a dispute at the beginning, they could give each other a share. Why did it become like this today? At the cost of human life, which of you is better off? Everyone bowed their heads. Bai Shandao, as for the rumor that Ma's family can't give birth to a boy, you will be responsible for the second, and you will be punished for picking the water of the Wu family for a year. He said, there are 20 households in this alley, including the Wu family. In the future, one household will be rounded for 1 day and 19 days. Bai Shan looked down at Guo Dake and said, including your Guo family. Guo Dake and Mrs Diao lowered their heads. Bai Shan asked, does anyone have an opinion? If there is, I will raise it immediately. If you don't mention it, the county will accept the punishment. If you just admit the punishment but don't do it, the county knows that it's not just punishing you for carrying water. No one objected. When Bai Shan detained them to the hearing hall yesterday, they felt bad. Later, they pointed out that the Guo and Wu families were also responsible. Seeing that the Guo family was fined so much money just now, they dared to speak up at this time. It's just fetching water, it's still 19 households taking turns, so it won't be difficult to listen to. Bai Shan looked at the secretary. The clerk immediately showed him the written judgment. Bai Shan swept over it with 1 eye and 10 lines. After confirming that it was correct, he handed it over to the clerk, let them sign it and sign it. The verdict was not long, only 2 pages, but there were a lot of people who needed to draw the verdict. Seeing that they were all done with their work, Man Bao took a step forward and said, since everyone is here today, I'll pass along some facts to everyone, some of the facts that you think have always been false. When the people outside who were planning to quietly disperse saw it, they immediately came up again. Zhou Man stood in front of Bai Shan's table and said, first, let me introduce myself to you. Next week Man, it is the order of the Qingzhou Medical Department, who was ordered to come to Qingzhou to open a medical department. I am an imperial doctor. She said, many people think that giving birth to a child is a woman's business, but everyone knows in their hearts that there is something wrong with this sentence, because only a woman can't give birth to a child. The crowd was in an uproar. How could such a thing as having a child be said in public? Man Bao seemed to know what they were arguing about, so he picked up the gavel in front of Bai Shan's table, slapped it heavily, and shouted sternly, what's the arguing? You guys are also urging couples to have children, so I'll say it now. Having a baby, what are you clamoring about? This sounds right at first glance, but why does it always feel weird? See you tomorrow. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2869. When the crowd quieted down again, Zhou Manke said with a serious face, having a child is not a woman's business. Everyone knows this truth, right? Everyone nodded together, nonsense, if you don't know the truth, cough, if having children is only a woman's business, then why do you need a man? Zhou Man paused for a while before continuing, then who decides whether to give birth to a boy or a girl? Since giving birth to a child is not a matter for women alone, then giving birth to boys and girls is naturally not a matter for women alone. This is a huge problem. Most of the people were ignorant, and even the doctors and shopkeepers of Baikatang who came to join in the fun lowered their heads and pondered, a little puzzled. In fact, as doctors, although they have not specifically studied this point, they have their own experience and feelings. It's fine when no one mentions it. Once someone raises this question, the two of them can't help but look at each other and say, it seems that this matter has more to do with men. Listen to what Lord Zhou said, the imperial physician's office may understand better than us. Yes, the people inside are all skilled medical people. Man Bao also knew that most of the people here were illiterate, let alone medical, so the explanation was simple and rude. She went directly to Wu's kitchen and took out 4 sticks, 2 of which were half burned and already carbonized, black. She didn't dislike being dirty either. She put 2 sticks on Bai Shan's table, and then held up the 2 sticks in her hands to show everyone, this one, the same stick from beginning to end, is a woman, and this one is burned. Half of them are men and women are different, everyone knows this, right? Someone laughed in the crowd and said, I know, everyone who has become a relative knows, ha ha ha. Bai Shan glanced over, patted the gavel, and shouted, what are you frolicking about? Stay if you want to listen, and turn around and go out if you don't want to. Is your Master Zhou's class good? Except for the students from the Imperial Physician's office, the dignitaries in the capital may not be able to hear it if they want to hear it. The crowd slowly quieted down. Although they were disgusted and embarrassed on their faces, many people wanted to know in their hearts. If they knew the reasons for having boys and girls, wouldn't they be able to have boys if they wanted to? So there is no need for Bai Shan to say the rest, and the people in the crowd suppressed a few bastards who wanted to make fun of them. The yeomen who were about to squeeze into the crowd to settle accounts with them stopped. Seeing that they had calmed down, Zhou Man raised the stick in his hand and said, the marriage of a husband and wife will give birth to a fetus. We often say that a child is the bone and blood of the parents, and the continuation of their blood. Then, the newborn will not only have the mother's blood. The bloodline, of course, also has the bloodline of the father. This principle is also easy to understand, even a child who is not very sensible can understand it after turning the words around in his head twice, not to mention a group of adult men and women who take blood inheritance as their lifelong wish. Seeing that they all understood, Man Bao continued, and the sex of the child is determined after the union is conceived. Like the pills that can preserve male fetuses and the pills that reverse yin and yang are all fake, it may be it's the mud balls rubbed from people's bodies wrapped in flour to fool you. A picture appeared in everyone's mind, and they were immediately disgusting. Man Bao tapped the table with a stick, grabbed everyone's attention, and continued, then how do boys form, and how do girls form? She raised the stick in her hand and broke off 2 pieces from the stick representing her parents. The 2 pieces were of the same color. She put the 2 pieces together and said, the whole body of the stick representing a woman is of the same color, so it's natural, when this part of the father's blood and the mother's blood are fused together, the stick formed is also the same color as the mother, so it is female. She stretched out her hand and broke off the half-burned stick again, took out a piece of black stick and said, but when this part of the father's blood and the mother's blood are fused together, the stick formed is completely the same as his father's color, and this represents men, do you understand? The onlookers were stunned, so what this means is, born a boy or a girl, in a popular sense, it is determined by the blood of the father's side, Man Bei Yang said with the stick that was broken in 2 pieces, the blood of the mother's side is fused with the lower half. The blood of the father, that is the girl, and the upper part is the fusion, this part represents the blood of the burned part, that is the boy. Generally speaking, without external intervention, the probability of conceiving men and women is the same. If both husband and wife give birth to girls many times, it means. Man Bao paused and said, either you are unlucky, or it is because of your male family, X, that part of the bloodline is stronger. For things like chromosomes and genes, there are too many things that need to be explained. It can be taught to disciples and students, but to explain to these people, they still need to understand. Since ancient times, both men and women have believed that giving birth to children is a woman's business. Naturally, it is also a woman's business to give birth to boys and girls. For thousands of years, this kind of thinking has never been broken, but now someone tells them that what you think is always wrong. Many people can't accept it at once. Even Fang Xiancheng, who has always been serious and reserved, couldn't help but ask, "How did your lord know this?" Man Bao said confidently, "I'm an imperial physician." Fang Xiancheng asked, "Can the imperial physicians in the imperial hospital be able to distinguish between males and females?" Man Bao raised his eyebrows and said, 45 out of 10, and 2 or 3 of the 10 out of 10 may have made a mistake. After all, doctors are also human beings, and when they are human, they make mistakes, so is the imperial physician. Man Bayu said with a warning to everyone, "The imperial physicians in the imperial hospital dare not say that they are the best in the world, but they are definitely the best doctors in the world. Even we dare not say that they can distinguish between men and women 100%. Not to mention the doctor outside. So if you have an abortion because you want to have a son in the future, you'd better think about what happened today." Everyone shuddered at the thought of the baby boy who died at birth because it was rumored to be a female fetus. Man Bao saw it and was satisfied. In the crowd, an old woman couldn't help but ask, "Sir, isn't there a way to conceive a boy?" Man Bao said firmly, "No." She said, "A man can't control his own body yet, how can I, a doctor, control it?" She paused and said, "And what's wrong with having a girl? There is a dowry when you get married, so you can keep some of it, and there are also daughters' filial piety during New Year's and festivals. I really don't want my daughter to marry. Set up a daughter-in-law for your daughter, hire a son-in-law, and get a son for nothing, how good." Everyone just thought that Zhou Man's words were very confusing. If there was no son, who would want a daughter to recruit a son-in-law? What kind of person can a door-to-door son-in-law be? See you at 6 p.m. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2870. No one took Zhou Man's remarks to heart, and they all talked about it. Is it really impossible to have a boy? Seeing this, Bai Shan knocked on the gavel to disperse them. The verdict will take effect from today. I hope you will remember today's punishment, and be good neighbors in the future. Don't spread rumors, and don't act impulsively. The onlookers responded with a yes in unison, and today they have seen the world. Generally speaking, this kind of thing is not too big, it is handled by the chief of the Riviera, and very few troubles go to the yamen. After this time, let's not talk about it. The neighbors on the left and right of this alley have to be more cautious. It's really a shame to enter the yamen because of a conflict. It's a small shame, and it's too bad to lose a lot of money like the Guo family. Like the Wu family, it's also miserable. As long as everyone thought that the Wu family's daughter-in-law could not have children because of this incident, they couldn't help sighing. The crowd dispersed. Bai Shan took Zhou Man's hand and was about to go back, when De Fu Niang suddenly stopped him, then reached out to Guo De Cai in front of them. Yesterday's medicine money and today's medicine money, a total of 286 characters. Man Bao couldn't help but be happy, and figured it out for her, 172 words. Yes, you can buy tomorrow's medicine early in the morning, but you also have to give us the money for today's and yesterday's medicine. Bai Shanban also stopped to look at the Guo family. He didn't ask them to give it, but he didn't say no. Guo Dake couldn't help but look at Guo's father. Guo Likane couldn't help but glared at Guo Lai secretly. Guo Lai gritted his teeth, went back to the house to get 2 strings of money and handed them over to the rich lady, forced a smile and said, "The day before yesterday, it was my daughter-in-law who did it without any seriousness. The medicine money for the past 2 days, the extra money will buy some chicken tonic for my niece-in-law." Although De Fu Niang didn't know how much more 2 strings of money were than 172 cents, but 200 cents was definitely a lot, so she quickly took it. Man Bao smiled slightly and said, "With 28 cents more, you can't buy a chicken, but you can buy 2 or 3 caddies of meat. Auntie might as well take the money to buy 2 caddies of meat." Both Defu and Defu were frightened and just made up for it. Bai Shan also said, "That's right, and it's busy farming at this time, right? We're going to start plowing and sowing the land at home. It's all heavy work, so we have to make up for it first. If it is said that Dewa nourishes her body, De Funiang will definitely be reluctant, but for her son." The rich lady hesitated for a while and then nodded. Only then did Bai Shan let the table and chairs be moved away. He put the gavel in his pocket and left hand in hand with Zhou Man. Before leaving, he said to De Hua, "You have to take good care of your body and strive to survive. Otherwise, if you die, the compensation from the Guo family will be gone." Wu Deifu's heart jumped when he heard this, and the Guo family couldn't help but look up. Bai Shan smiled at them, and said to De Hua, "If you die, then the Guo family will be involved in the murder case, and it will be difficult for the county to open up. The newly born child died because of premature birth, wrestling, malnutrition, etc. Therefore, Bai Shan decided that Diao's crime was injury, not murder, but if De Hua died. Not to mention the Diao family, even Guo Dake shivered and did not dare to provoke the Wu family at this time. The rich lady's face turned pale when she saw it, and she looked like she was dying soon. What if she said something at this time, and her blood collapsed when she was excited? The Guo family quickly turned around and left. Wu Deifu also turned around and helped Dewa back to the house. The 2 children were sitting on the bed and playing, and when they saw the adult coming in, they immediately climbed out of the bed with their hands and feet. The clothes on their bodies have been changed into clean clothes. Dewa changed them for them last night. When they saw them crawling down, they said, "What are you doing down there? Playing on the bed, and getting your clothes dirty later." Wu Deifu looked down at the 2 children, picked them up and put them on the bed in a rare way, and said, "If it gets dirty, let my mother wash it." After all, they are his own daughters, and Wu Deifu of course likes them, but he was too busy to turn around in order to make a living. They were still asleep when he went out, and when he came back, he was so tired that he didn't even want to talk, so he rarely stayed with them. But if there is no accident, he may only have these 2 children in his life. Thinking of this, Wu Deifu was a little more patient with them, carried them into the bed and put them down, and then sat down with Dewa. He said, "You lie down first, I'll go get my mother to buy some meat back." He turned to find his mother. When he was going out, he happened to see the magistrate and the magistrate's wife taking people out. His mother was standing at the door to send them off. He couldn't help but ask, "Mother, what did your lord say to you?" De Fu Niang said angrily, "What else can I say? Just say that you want your daughter-in-law to take good care of her body, otherwise it will be harmful to her lifespan, and say that if she is well maintained, she may be able to give birth in the future. If you want me to say, why bother with so much money, it would be great to take 50,000 yuan directly. We will not treat her badly if we take the money. We will buy all the medicine and meat that should be given to her. If she can't use it up, she can also prepare it for her 2 children in the future. Dowry. My lord has already said that this is the one chosen by the Guo family. Can you be the head of the Guo family?" Wu Deifu was a little irritable. He spent 2 days in prison. So he stretched out his hand and said, "Give me some money, I'll buy some meat, and cook the rice." The rich lady said, "What kind of meat do you eat this year?" She still didn't give up. She lowered her voice and said, "Do you really plan to guard her for the rest of your life? Our Wu family can't really cut off children and grandchildren, right?" She said, "Save the money. She is not in good health. If you will have the money to marry a daughter-in-law in a few years." Wu Deifu said irritably, "How to marry? Our family is so poor, I still have 2 daughters, and the widower has a wife, and even a widow has to pay $4 or $5. How much money does our family have now? $2 is not enough. And I can't live without a daughter-in-law just to marry a daughter-in-law, right?" Wu Deifu said, "I don't have a daughter-in-law. Don't talk about it, give me the money quickly." Wu Deifu was stunned to take out 20 coins from De Fu Niang's hand, and then went to buy meat with his arms thrown. He has already given birth to 2 daughters, and even if he remarries his daughter-in-law, he might still have a daughter. Didn't the magistrate's wife just say that it was a man's decision to give birth to a son? He felt that it must be because the yin and yang of their family had been declining, so he would have been giving birth to a daughter. How many years have passed? In a few years, when his 2 daughters grow up, the feng shui in the family will become more cloudy, and it will be even more impossible to have a son. In this case, it is better to buy meat to eat now. Why marry another daughter-in-law and have many more daughter? Bai Shan let Zhou Man out of the alley, and couldn't help but ask her, "Is it really the man who decides to give birth to a boy?" "Fake," Man Bao said, "men can't control the fusion of blood. It must be the next one with color, so this is destined by God. Neither women can decide, naturally, nor men can decide. It's just that whether it's a boy or a girl is really decided by the man's bloodline." See you at 9. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2871. Fang Xiancheng and the others who pricked up their ears to listen at the back fell silent. So although the birth of a man and a woman is determined by the blood of the man, the birth of a boy or a girl is destined by heaven. Fang Xiancheng couldn't hold back, and asked curiously, "Sir, is there a chance between having a child and having a daughter?" "Generally speaking, half and half." Out of the alley, Man Bao asked him, "Would you like to go to dinner?" Bai Shan glanced down at his green official robe and decided to go back to the county office, so he stopped Guo Likang. "Let's go back to the county office for dinner." Guo Likang's heart tightened, and he knew that it was his turn next. That's right, even the neighbors in an alley were fined. How could he, the chief, be fine? Besides, he and Guo Dake are still relatives. Guo Likang wiped the perspiration from his forehead, and responded repeatedly, hunched over, and went to the county office with Bai Shan. Bai Shan was going to have a working lunch at the county government office. Man Bao thought about it. She also had something to tell him, so she simply stayed. There are cooks in the county office, and officials can eat working meals in the county office, but in order to save costs, the county office's working meals are really not delicious. Bai Shan thought so. He didn't eat less work meals, but it was the first time in his life that he had eaten such a bad meal, so he ate this meal extremely elegantly. However, Man Bao was eating with relish. Bai Shan glanced at her and then looked at her again, feeling that his appetite was much better. But Guo Likang, who was sitting across from him, didn't have the calmness of Bai Shan. He just felt like he was sitting on pins and needles. Bai Shan never opened his mouth. Bai Shan had almost eaten, and then he wiped his mouth and said to Guo Li, "The common people are ignorant, and many people rely on one breath to act. Law. So these things need the attention of the governor." Guo Likang nodded repeatedly and answered yes. Bai Shandao, counties are made up of villages and villages. Although this county is the magistrate, it is up to you, especially the head of the Li, to understand the situation of each household within a Li. If something happens, the county will ask you, and the people also rely on you, so the governor must be fair. Guo Likane wiped the sweat from his forehead and said yes repeatedly. Bai Shan continued, in the future, the Guo Likane from the Guo and Wu families should pay more attention, especially the Wu family, they were hit. Neighbors, help if you can. Guo Likane nodded again and again, seeing that Bai Shan didn't reprimand him, and then slowly let go of his high-hearted heart. Bai Shan's words were only here, and after he finished eating, he let Guo Likane back down. As soon as he left, Bai Shan turned his head and asked Zhou Man, have you chosen a place? It's chosen, Man Bao said. It's just behind Kinmen Street, not too far from Baiko Hall and Renhe Hall. She said, the courtyard with 2 entrances is barely spacious, but Bihai County is small and does not need a particularly large place. Bai Shan asked suspiciously, aren't the Baikatang and Renhetang on Kinmen Street? There are shops in front of them, right? It's not on Kinmen Street, it's in the back. Man Bao gestured for him and said, the alley with the gate open is quite wide, and there are a few small stalls here and there, but the rent is cheap, $13 a year. Bai Shan was surprised, have you even negotiated the price? Man Bao sighed, no way, the landlord is too enthusiastic. Bai Shan always felt that she was being tricked, that's too fast, is there something wrong with the house? Man Bao said, the problem is not very big, except for the remoteness, there are no other major problems. Fang Xiancheng seriously thought about the place where Zhou Man was gesturing, and finally remembered it, and couldn't help but say, that place is not just remote, right? It was quite remote, and the house was in an alley down Kinmen Street. The alley is indeed not small, but it needs to keep going, and at the end is a courtyard wall, and the courtyard next to the courtyard wall is the house that Zhou Man and the others want to rent. But in fact, the alley is diagonally inward, and there is also an alley at the back door of the house, which is much smaller. Well, the backyard of the 2 halls. Passing through the entire Baikatang and Renhetang is the most lively Kinmen Street in Bihai County. The straight line distance is particularly short, but to really reach Kinmen Street, they need to walk upwards for a quarter of an hour. It doesn't take a long time to here, but Bihai County is so big, and it only takes 2 or 3/4 of an hour to stroll around the most lively Kinmen Street. A quarter of an hour is really too long for the people here. However, Man Bao, who came from the capital, didn't think so. She thought the location was good. Not only was it easy to get in and out, it was cheap, the place was big enough, and it was quiet in the middle of the noise. It is very suitable for poor patients to come here for treatment. Fang Xiancheng opened his mouth several times, but he didn't say anything. Bai Shan looked at Fang Xianquan's face, and immediately got up and said, let's go, I'll go take a look with you. Man Bao was stunned, aren't you going to rest? After a day of running, she was a little tired and wanted to rest. Bai Shan dragged her to get up, why are you tired? Let's go to the house first, and then we will rest after we have settled on the medical office. He said, I'm going to the countryside tomorrow to inspect. Man Bao was refreshed and frowned, won't you wait for me? Bai Shandao, you're chasing me later? I'll make a note for you. When you come back and write down the question, I can ask you a question. Keek ding dong at the right time, and Man Bao immediately said, no need, I'll go by myself, set up the house and rules as soon as possible, and I'll go to the countryside with you to see the situation. Bai Shan couldn't help but smile. Fang Xiancheng followed behind them, and was hesitant to follow, when he saw Master Song standing at the door of the office waving at him. Fang Xiancheng frowned and stepped forward. Master Song saluted him immediately and asked with a smile, Master Fang, Master Bai, what are they going to do? The house of the medical office. Fang Xiancheng frowned and asked, is the food and seeds ready? I've counted everything, didn't this just come back from the warehouse? Song Master Clerk said with a smile, Guoli came out of the inside with a sweaty head just now, I called him twice but he didn't respond, he looked frightened. It's not light, why, our county magistrate punished him. Also, I heard that people in an entire alley have been punished, Song Master Clerk said with a laugh. Master Bai is too fussy, but it's just a conflict between the two families, how can you punish the entire alley? Are you all involved? Fang Xiancheng frowned and said, Master Bai handled this case very well today. It's a pity that Master Song should go to the court. Turn around and leave. Master Song was choked for a moment, turned his head and asked Dong Xianwei, who came out to eat, Master Fang, what's wrong? Dong Xianwei ate and said, Fang Xiancheng is right. Master Bai handled this case very beautifully. Even the county magistrate Lu before his promotion couldn't do it so beautifully. Happy Children's Day. Today is June 1st, and I promised book friends to add another update at night, so see you at 11 o'clock in the evening. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2872. Master Song. He looked at Lieutenant Dong Xian in surprise, wondering why he had such a high evaluation of Bai Shan in just one morning. Dong Xianwei leaned against the door frame with a bowl and said, Master Bai is kind-hearted, and his scheming and tactics are not bad. The most important thing is that he is careful enough. Seeing the head of Song raising his eyebrows, Lieutenant Dong smiled and said, You also said that the matter of the Guo and Wu families is not a big deal. As usual, unless Wu Deifu took a knife and slaughtered the Guo family, otherwise most of it was reported to the Licain, and Guo Licain organized the two clans of Guo and Wu to discuss and solve the problem, and there was no way to report to the county government. Most of the reports are about the murders of the Guo family. By then, the Guo and Wu families will be completely destroyed. Lieutenant Dong Xian is in charge of the public security issues in Bihai County. Deifu did not have the courage to mention murder again. But everyone is afraid of what will happen. Small cases like this are reported to the county government office, and most of them are like what Mr. Bai said. According to the law, Mrs. Diao was imprisoned for 3 years, Guo Dake beat him, and Wu Deifu went to serve. It seems fair and just. But this will also lead to endless troubles. The Guo family had a daughter-in-law who was in prison, and the Wu family not only lost a grandson, but also the daughter-in-law was seriously ill and bedridden, and the son went to serve again. The harvest of the year after leaving was also ruined. To the point of selling sons and daughters, Dong Xianwei said, the two families have settled a deadly feud after this incident. However, after 2 days of hard work by Master Bai, the Guo family was punished to the point of heartache, but the prison was spared, and the impact on future generations was minimized. Dong Xianwei said, it is not necessary to mention the Wu family. The family's situation has turned into a situation where there is still a chance of life. Based on these 2 points, it can be seen that he is kind-hearted and has tactics and scheming. When Dong Xianwei said this for a while, he pointedly said, we, an adult, can't be fooled. There are many strong temperaments for the people. I'm afraid this one's temper is not smaller than that of the county magistrate. Master Song did not speak. Lieutenant Dong Xian strolled away with the bowl in his hand. Master Song returned to his senses and hurriedly shouted, where are you going? You won't eat any more. I'm full, the duck you ordered today was too oily to taste, Dong Xianwei said and walked away. Bai Shan rode a horse and ran with Man Bao for half a street, and then walked another alley before arriving at the house she mentioned. Bai Shan dismounted, looked left and right, and found that it was a side street, not a big alley at all, and there were shops facing the street on the left and right sides. Well, most of the shops are not open, and even the vendors who set up stalls only extend to the intersection of the street, and there are some sundries such as firewood on the side of the door and the wall. It's not really like a street, but an alley. Bai Shan looked at the cluttered streets and felt that he urgently needed to clean up the city. The landlord hasn't left yet, and is taking his family to pack things inside. After all, it's going to be rented out, so naturally he has to be cleaned up. The landlord's family, who was carrying dirty things, went out and saw Bai Shan standing in front of their door in official robes. The landlord's hands trembled a little, and he quickly put down the things in his hands and went forward to salute. He couldn't help but secretly glanced at Zhou Man. Why did your lord come back? But what happened? No, Man Bao glanced at Bai Shan and said, it's just that Magistrate Bai wants to see the house. Bai Shan couldn't help sighing, this place is very remote. There was a wall inward, and he was very curious, whose house is this? I see it spans 2 alleys, and I think it's not small. This pattern is very similar to the pattern of the house they rented in Yazhu at the beginning. There is a large house next door, and occasionally they can turn over a wall or something. Thinking about it this way, when he looked at the courtyard wall blocking the alley, Bai Shan's eyes were wrong. The landlord said, this is Master Song's house. His house is very big, from here to the back. I heard that it is even more beautiful than the yard of the county magistrate's house in the back of the county government. That's natural. Looking at the layout, the entire Song house is probably about the size of the county government office. Bai Shan asked with a smile, is it the bookkeeper of Song? No, Master Song is just a nephew of Master Song. This is the house of Master Song's family. Man Bao also became curious, my nephew. Tang, the landlord glanced behind Bai Shan, and seeing that the people behind him were all guards and servants, and there were no county yamen servants, so he lowered his voice and said, Master Song is a side branch. What is there to avoid? Bai Shan is puzzled, the side branch is the side branch, and the direct branch is the direct branch. Isn't this an objective fact? The landlord seemed to know what Bai Shan was wondering, and whispered, Master Song wants to join the direct branch. Not only Bai Shan, but also Man Bao became curious now, not because Song Master wanted to join the direct branch, but curious, how do you know? The landlord said embarrassedly, to tell the truth, the youngest's mother is from the Song family. I have vaguely heard about this. Bai Shan. He thought about it and remembered that it was written on the house deed at that time, so he said, Master Lu has a good idea. They only met for the first time, and they told outsiders about their relatives' anecdotes. Is it really okay? The landlord smiled and was about to continue when he heard Bai Shan say, but that doesn't erase the fact that it's too remote. The landlord hurriedly said, but our yard is big. Madam has seen it. Although my house is also a second entry yard, it has a big front door. I don't want to say that there are 2 courtyards at the back. In the end, I also brought a small garden. Man Bao sighed, I didn't use this house to live in, but to use it as a medical office, and the scenery doesn't need to be too beautiful. Bai Shan added, and it's still far away. From the county office, you have to walk half a street, and then you have to walk through this alley to get there. The landlord immediately said, Sir, we are very close to the county office. We don't walk on the streets, we walk in the alleys, and we don't have to ride horses. It takes less than a quarter of an hour to walk. Bai Shan looked suspicious. Really, if you don't believe me, I'll take the adults on a trip. After saying that, I took them into the yard, walked to the back garden, and opened the back door directly. As soon as they went out, there was a small alley, the kind of alley that only a carriage could pass by. Bai Shan also smelled the faint scent of medicine. He raised his head and glanced at a small door on the opposite side. Obviously, this was the back door of the 100 Herbs Hall that Man Bao said. The landlord led them forward, and after walking a few dozen steps, they turned into a small alley, and turned again after less than 100 steps. When they turned around again, Bai Shan and Zhou Man, who were already dizzy, saw a somewhat familiar alley. The landlord happily pointed to a doorway in the alley. Look, adults, this is the corner door of the backyard of the county government office. I can guarantee that we never spent more than a quarter of an hour just now. Bai Shan and Man Bao said bitterly, it's not a quarter of an hour, but we've already fainted. Let them walk this road by themselves. I'm afraid it will be difficult to get out in a day, and there are too many small alleys inside. Good night. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2873. Although this route is quite tortuous, Bai Shan finally agreed to rent this yard, because this one is indeed the most suitable among the slightly larger houses rented in Bihai County. Don't look at Bihai County, there are 3 yamen shops, but they don't have many rented houses. They mainly do business of buying and selling land and people now. She is an official, and if she asks a question, it is a little exaggerated for convenience, but she will always answer. Of course, this is also the advantage of having Song Master on the side. In the rented houses, except for the shops, the rest are all residences, either too small or even smaller entrances and exits. Man Bao and Bai Shan explained, just the kind of alley we walked through just now. It is very inconvenient to only allow 1 car to pass, and that big alley can still pass through 2 carriages. Bai Shan emphasized, it's not an alley, it's a street, but I can also see that business in Bihai County is not prosperous, and a good street is full of debris. The street. Man Bayadao, listen to those yamen, there were even fewer merchants in Bihai County 3 or 4 years ago, and the vendors couldn't even occupy Kinmen Street, not to mention the side street next to it. The number of talents has gradually increased, and there are also a little more vendors on the street, and now the intersection is also occupied by the busy farming season. Bai Shan is very ambitious, then we will let them fill the side streets in the next 2 years. Man Bao asked him, the county magistrate of Lu does not charge the entry fee from the stall and hawker, do you accept it? Bai Shan, I won't accept it either. Very generous. Man Bao, then can the county government help us sell the rent from our medical office? No, Bai Shan responded quickly and said, I remember that unless you build a house, the county government is responsible for part of it, and the medical department is directly responsible for other expenses, right? Man Bayadao, when the medical department is insufficient, you can ask the county government for help. Bai Shan, this hasn't even started yet. Your medical department's funds are not enough. There are a lot of things to be busy next. Man Bao counted with his fingers, to organize the house, transform it into a layout suitable for the medical office, to purchase medicinal materials and medical equipment, and to hire people. In short, the cost is huge. Bai Shan pondered for a moment, then asked, are you still going to the countryside with me for so many things? Man Bao nodded and said, I have to investigate the medical treatment situation in the countryside. Some towns have doctors, while others don't. Moreover, the medical department also needs to publicize that the seasons will change after the busy farming season. It is easy to attract evil with infants and young children, and it will be summer after that. I also want to see what medicinal materials for heat stroke prevention are available locally. If I can, I will buy it directly locally, but I will avoid buying it from a drug dealer, and it will be more expensive. Bai Shan understood, nodded, and said, okay, let's go out together tomorrow. Man Bao asked him, who do you take to the countryside with you? Bai Shan, Dong County Lieutenant. He said, find the county magistrate first, and then change the Song registrar after you have a rough understanding of the situation in Bihai County. When I go out, the county magistrate has to be in charge of the affairs of the county government. Bai Shan glanced at the direction they had just come from, and smiled with Zhou Man. Just by looking at the Song family's house, we know that the Song family's influence in Bihai County is not small, so a good knife must be used on the edge. Master Song did not expect that he was being used as a knife by Bai Shan. He took a pamphlet and found the backyard from the front of the county office with a smile, and said to Bai Shan, "Sir, this year's grain seeds are all here, and the lower official is here again today. After checking it out, how do you think it should be distributed?" Bai Shan got up and said, "I and you will go to see the seeds first." He turned his head and said to Joe Man, "I may be a little busy in the afternoon. If you can't make it back to dinner, you can eat it first." Man Bao nodded and waved his hand to let him go. As Bai Shan walked out, he said to Master Song, "Send someone to inform the villagers and ask them to receive grain seeds in 3 days. I remember that it is the farming season. Why haven't the grain seeds been distributed yet?" "Master Song, I'm not thinking that the adults are coming, so I want to ask the adults before making a decision." The voice slowly disappeared, and it seemed that the person had walked away. Man Bao shook his head, took out a stack of white paper from the bookcase and put it aside. She took one and put it on the table, and after a moment of indulgence, she began to write a plan. They need to list all the things that the medical department needs, so that they can buy and bargain. The medicine list is ready-made, and the medicine lists purchased by the medical offices in various places are similar, but there are some differences in the emphasis on the amount of medicine, and each place will add some more medicinal materials for some special local diseases. Man Bao directly took the medicine list recorded in the Imperial Physician's office and added the purchase amount directly later. She should be going to let the rumors go. She can't go to the pharmacist, can she? It was the drug dealer who came to find her. Man Bao thought about it for a while, pulled a large piece of paper and wrote a notice, and summoned Zibing and said, "Send this notice to the county government in front of you, and have their documents transcribe a few copies. The notice wall at the entrance of the county government and paste all the city walls for me, and paste this copy to the door of the medical office." "West Cake, ma'am, has the medical office decided on that house?" Man Bao nodded. Zibing was very distressed. "I don't recognize the way." Man Bao comforted her and said, "It doesn't matter, I don't know the way, but the Yamen in Kintu County will definitely know the way. When you look for them 2 more times, you will know the way." After comforting the cake, Man Bao continued to work at the desk. Both Julan and Mei came in to take a look, and then lit the lamp. When Bai Shan came back, Man Baodu was still working hard to write. Bai Shan glanced at the already dark sky, tapped the table lightly and asked, "Have you had dinner?" The cake on the side immediately said, "No." Julan added, "The lady is waiting for the master. Bai Shangzhen is a ghost." Looking at the papers full of words on her case, he thought she was busy. Man Bao raised his head, twisted his neck, and said to him, "I'm still a little short." Bai Shan took a look and found that she was not writing a plan, but a book, and couldn't help but wonder, "Do you want to go up? It's only been a day's work, is there anything that needs to be discounted?" Man Baodao, I tentatively set the address of the Qingzhou Medical Office in Bihai County. Although it does not violate the regulations, it is not normal, so I will report to Your Majesty and the Imperial Medical Office, and by the way, I will urge the new governor. If he doesn't come again, my medical department will have to take root in Bihai County." Bai Shan asked thoughtfully, "The new governor has arrived, do you have to travel between the 2 places?" Man Bao took a sip of tea and said, "I'm thinking about this too, so I have to write a private letter to Xiao Yuan Zheng at night. I don't know if he would let me pick another person from the Imperial Physician's office to help. See you at 6 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2874. Bai Shan, who do you belong to? Man Bao said very casually, "I can accept anyone, as long as it is an individual." Bai Shan looked at her speechlessly, and when she finished the book, he took her to dinner and said, "Your Majesty sent you out because I want you to find a way for the local medical office and the local county government to live in harmony and develop together. The person you want to take with you at this time is equivalent to your right and left hand in the future, and even this person will take your place. Do you think this person can be casual? Man Bao frowned slightly. I have taught all the students in the imperial physician's office, and they are all the same here. After thinking about it, she smiled and said, at this time, Zhenggu and the others have their own positions, and the imperial physician's office will not let the four of us master and apprentice in the same place. Isn't this a party? Who knows if it will be private? So who does it matter? Bai Shandao, I thought you would have someone you like. After thinking about it, Man Bao shook his head and said, it's okay, the local medical office was just exploring, and everyone's ideas are different. There are so many students in the imperial medical office, and I can't understand what each of them thinks, since that's the case. It's better to follow the fate, no matter who comes, we can run in with each other and inspire each other. When Bai Shan heard this, he thought it made sense, so he didn't care about her. After the meal, Zhou Man sent a letter to Xiao Yuan Zheng, and handed it to Bai Shan together with Jizi. The uncle said give it out tomorrow. Well, the post station is also under the management of the county government, unless the letter is secretly sent to the capital. Bai Shan took it and put it on the table beside him. After rubbing his forehead, he went to bed and hugged her. The quilt was covered and he said, go to sleep, I have to go to the countryside tomorrow. Going to the countryside is hard work. Generally, the county magistrates who are more conscientious will choose a few villages to visit every year, understand the people's conditions, and persuade them to teach the farmers. The very conscientious county magistrate, just like Yang Heshu back then, traveled every inch of the land under his jurisdiction. Bai Shan is planning to visit every village as much as possible, at least to know the grain and sowing situation. However, unlike Yang Heshu, who liked to bring only one servant into the village, he not only rode a horse and brought a guard, but also brought Dong Xianwei and the yamen, with 2 carts of grain behind him. Man Bao also brought western cakes and some commonly used medicinal materials with him. Lieutenant Dong asked, where do you want to start from? Bai Shan said, let's look outside, go to Lizhuang first. It was going to the southwest, and it took about 3/4 of an hour to get there by trotting out of the city on horseback. Lieutenant Dong didn't expect him to go to such a close place first, so he nodded after a moment of stunnedness. So everyone went to Lizhuang first. Most of the people in Lizhuang are surnamed Li, and they belong to a family. The villages close to the city are developing better than other villages. Some people are already planting seeds in the villages. The crops supported by the imperial court every year are not provided by every household, nor can they cover a family's food seeds for a whole year. Therefore, no one from a well-off family is really waiting for grain to be sown. Bai Shan naturally knew this, so he only checked the population situation in the village, and then took people to the fields to watch people planting seeds, touched their seeds, and asked about last year's harvest. Bai Shan grabbed a handful of seeds in his hand, pressed them one by one, turned his head and asked Zhou Man, I remember that we have to wait for the seeds to sprout. Man Bao nodded, it will be released after 2 days of soaking. Bai Shan asked the villagers curiously, aren't you soaking seeds here? The villager said, I used to soak it before, and it was said that it was a method from the Central Plains, but after we soaked it, it grew older, and many buds were broken when we sprinkled it. It is better not to soak it? Bai Shan pondered, soap your hair now, last night was a bit sultry, so you can get up around the clock to soak your hair, and the morning of the 3rd day should be about the same. Sprouts should not be so long if you don't spend a day's work. But the farmers face some reluctance. Although most of their seeds are kept by themselves, it is very hard to keep them, and there is not much excess. If the soaking is bad, they have to go to the county to buy grain seeds, which is not cost-effective. Bai Shan didn't force it when he saw it. He smiled and said, you can choose 2 or 3 pounds to soak it and see the effect. This is how we breed in the south, and the annual rate of emergence is very high. The county magistrate was not reluctant, but the farmers hesitated again, and couldn't help but ask, can adults also farm? No wonder they were so suspicious of Bai Shan, it was because he was too white, very different from the previous magistrate Lu, who looked shrewd and black. Bai Shan smiled and said, I can't say that I am proficient, but I have been in the field since I was a child. Farming is just like reading. I can try a few more methods. I also know that farmers are not very adventurous, so they can only farm a few pieces of land each year. Try the new method given by the Yamen. If the yield is high, it will be the best, and other places will be able to keep up next year. When they were young, they were particularly interested in farming for a period of time, so they read a lot of agricultural books and miscellaneous notes, which recorded the methods of farming in various places, as well as all kinds of strange methods found by Zhou Man. Tried it on my own small farm. Most of them succeeded. Of course, there were also failures. The people of Qilai village and Master Bai were used to watching them toss, and their tossing and tossing all over the place had an effect. They followed closely the next year, and they said to them with a smile, eat a meal, the long one is wise. Bai Shan believes that farmers all over the world need this kind of wisdom. There were many villagers watching, and most of them were reluctant to go to the trouble, but some were willing to take the risk. As Bai Shan said, take out 3 or 4 caddies of grain and try it. Even if this grain is discarded, it will not have a great impact. Bai Shan was happy when he saw that someone was willing to listen, so he communicated with them and asked, how do you solve fertilizers here? When Bai Shan was communicating with the villagers, Man Bao listened to Keek's words and dug some things in the fields and mountains. Most of the half-old children and girls in the village were with her. Man Bao also specially called a few daughters-in-law in the village and asked them, do you take medicine by yourself when you are sick, or do you go to the city to see a doctor? What kind of medicine do you take? Just boil it for a while. Man Bao asked, what about the child, do you want to endure too? Children are more difficult to endure. Usually, I will go to the town to find a doctor to get 2 medicines. The young daughter-in-law who spoke sighed, raising a child is the most afraid of fever. My child has had a fever twice this year, and every time I feel frightened. She didn't know that Zhou Man was an imperial physician, so she looked at her and asked with a smile, did your wife have a child too? I think both the adults and the wife are people with excellent personalities, and the children they have must be easy to take care of, right? See you at 9. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2875. Man Bao smiled and said, I haven't given birth yet. I am the order of the medical office. I am here to tell you that the Qingzhou medical office is temporarily located in Bihai County, so you can go to the county medical office if you are sick in the future. Look. She said, anyone who goes to a household and takes a household registration to see a doctor does not need money. The little daughter-in-law who had just opened her mouth widened her eyes and asked quickly, what about Nakato? Their family is not bad, they are the village head of Li Shuang, so she was sent to entertain Zhou Man. Man Bao smiled and said, I can waive your consultation fee. The little daughter-in-law was tangled, why do we waive the consultation fee and drug fee for the next household, but we can't help it. Man Baodao, your majesty and the princes of the court pity the people of the world, and are afraid that the poor people will not be able to see a doctor, so they have specially waived the medical fees and medicine fees for the lower households, and also for the middle households. Every year during the season, the medical department will also issue anti-epidemic medicine soup, and all the people can get it for free. She sighed, Your Majesty and the National Treasury are both poor, and we can only do this now. If you want the middle households to be free of medicine fees, and even the whole world to be free, you have to work together. The little daughter-in-law, the eldest girl, and the eldest children on the side were all startled, pointing their fingers at themselves and asking in disbelief, We. Man Bao nodded, it's you. She said seriously, this is a matter that involves the well-being of all people in the world, and naturally requires everyone's efforts. The little daughter-in-law said a little embarrassedly, what can I do? It still depends on the adults, right? No, there is a lot you can do, Joe Man said. If you manage a small family well, each family will have a better life, and the country will naturally prosper and become strong. Isn't this your hard work? Not only these little daughters-in-law, but also the little girls and older children who came to join in the fun were all stunned. When Joe Man led a group of people back to the village, their hands were so dirty that everyone, including children who were only 6 or 7 years old, was holding a handful of grass in their hands. Is it grass? Village chief Li Kun and Li Zhang, who came to accompany him, had some uncertain thoughts. The young daughter-in-law of the Li family was very excited, and she said to her fairly when she arrived, Father, Lord Zhou taught us to recognize herbal medicines, saying that this herbal medicine can be sold for money after it is dried and sent to the county seat. Village chief Li hurriedly gave her a wink, glanced at the younger son who was waiting behind him, and said, What are you calling me, madam? Bai Shan smiled and said, It's not bad to be called sir, this is the order of Qingzhou Medical Office, Sir Zhou. The village chief opened his mouth wide. He didn't know what the medical department was, and he had never heard of the official, so he looked at Li Zhang at a loss. Li Zhang said quickly, Sorry, forgive me, the villagers in the countryside have no knowledge. Bai Shan smiled nonchalantly, It's all right, just don't understand our teaching. He pointed to the young daughter-in-law of the Li family and the young daughters-in-law and children behind him and said, Didn't Master Zhou teach them just now? They will teach them to the family later. The little daughters-in-law were okay, but the little girls who were familiar with Zhou Man were very bold, and those children immediately raised their chests under the eyes of the adults and said proudly, We have all written it down, Dad, Grandpa, I'll teach you later. When everyone talked in a hurry, Bai Shan smiled and said to Li Zhang, The Qingzhou Medical Office is temporarily located in Bihai County. This is a good thing for Bihai County. If you have time, gather the villagers of each village to publicize it. If there is a serious illness, the person can be sent to the Bihai County Medical Office for diagnosis and treatment, and if there are poor and weak people who cannot seek medical treatment, they can also go to the medical office to have a try. Zhou Man added, Go with the household registration, the middle and lower households can see a doctor for free, and the lower households will be exempted from the drug fee. The village chief doubted, Is there such a good thing? The villagers couldn't help but ask, Is it really free? Zhou Man nodded, This is His Majesty's grace, and it is only for the poor and weak for the time being. As soon as Bai Shan and the others left, village chief Li led people around Li Zhan, Uncle, what kind of medical office are they talking about? The children who squeezed in rushed to answer, I know, ask me, ask me. Village chief Li angrily pulled the child aside and said, Speak up, children, don't be naughty. The chief said, How can you know that they are naughty before you listen to the children? He said, I don't know much. I only heard that your Majesty's grace will set up medical offices in various places. Some poor people who can't see a doctor can go to see a doctor. In addition, they can also prevent epidemics. Li Zheng also said, It seems that it was because of the smallpox in the past few years. I don't know much about the medical office, but I do know a little about this Lord Zhou. Compared with the lesser-known medical department, the name of Zhou Man's little genius doctor has been heard by many people. Because all scholars will pay attention to current affairs, and if they pay attention to current affairs, they will know that the king of Yizhu was killed in a rebellion, and the prince was happy with his son, and the country was stabilized. Whether it is the former or the latter, there is Zhou Man in it. Especially in the big event that the prince was happy with your son, Zhou Man is one of the protagonists, so everyone who has a scholar has heard of Zhou Man's name. And her identity is so special. The daughter of the chivalrous man who pulled the king of Yizhu down, turned around and cured the nephew of the king of Yizhu, the crown prince, and stabilized the country. I heard that the smallpox in Yizhu was particularly violent in the past few years because of her. The prestige was frightened away. Of course, this is a rumor that has already passed through several mouths. In a word, Li Zhen knows this Lord Zhou. So the villagers didn't leave, and just squatted down and listened to Li Zhen talking about the great achievements of Lord Zhou. Of course, he also heard a few words from his grandson who was studying, but this did not prevent him from expanding divergently. Leaving Li village, Bai Shan went directly to the next village. He and Zhou Man said, "I have seen their wheat, and the hanging ears are not as long and full as ours." He turned his head and asked Lieutenant Dong, who was beside him, "Are you using the new wheat seed, or the wheat seed you kept?" How did Wei Dong know about these things? I just heard some news vaguely before. There are wheat seeds from the Central Plains. Before, the Ministry of Housing sent a batch. Later, after the county magistrate came, I purchased several different seeds. Bai Shan nodded. Go to the next village and ask. In some villages, some people planted the grain seeds, but more people ate that part of the grain seeds. Bai Shan asked 2 villages about his experience. He is not blind. Although they are all wheat, the wheat is not the same as the wheat. At this time, most of the winter wheat is hanging on the ears. Look at the length, the height, and the subtle changes in the leaves. Even if the new wheat species grows in different places, there will be slight differences, but it is definitely not like this. So if you ask carefully, you will know where the wheat seeds that were divided in the previous 2 years went. Bai Shan didn't say much, just wrote down the names of the village and Lichhan in the notebook. See you tomorrow. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2876. After leaving the village, Dong Xianwei reminded, "Master Bai, the sun is going down soon, let's go back to the city." Bai Shan shook his head, "Let's go to the next village, I remember that the next one is Zhejiagu. Let's stay overnight in Zhejiagu at night." Lieutenant Dong County, "Sir, Zhejiagu is very remote. We will go there at this time, and we won't be able to get there until it's dark." "It's because of the remoteness that I have to stay overnight," Bai Shan said. "Otherwise, if you go to Zhejiagu tomorrow, it will take a long time." He looked at Lieutenant Dong Xian suspiciously. "Lieutenant Dong, you didn't bring a change of clothes, did you?" "As I said before, we will travel for 3 days on this trip." Lieutenant Dong County, "Sir, you shouldn't be in a hurry to wash up. Isn't it normal for a big man to not wash for 3 or 4 days? The road to Zhejiagu was more difficult to walk, not to mention that it was getting dark at this time, so the group accelerated. By the time they finally climbed over a hill and saw a village, it was completely dark, and only the moonlight shone on their way. The people in the village had already slept, and at this time few could afford to light a lamp, so as soon as it got dark, there was no other light source except the stars and the moon in the sky. They rode their horses into the dark and entered the village. Dong Xianwei knew that he could not keep a low profile at this time, otherwise he would probably be beaten and killed as a bandit, so he shouted as soon as he arrived at the entrance of the village. Immediately woke up the whole village. The village chief brought the young and strong men to light torches, and when they arrived at the entrance of the village, they saw a group of officials in official uniforms standing on the edge of the field with horses leading their horses. The first 2 horses only kicked their feet under the firelight, and they looked like well-trained horses. In general, such a good horse can be used by officials. The village chief is relieved. Although he doesn't know why the officials are here late at night, it is better than a bandit. Well, only a little better. The village chief stepped forward with a hunched waist, and asked in a pleasing manner, "Why did the official come here late at night, and haven't eaten yet? If you are young, you will be sent to slaughter chickens and sheep." Wei Dong asked angrily, "Do you have sheep in your village?" The village chief smiled flatteringly, "There are no sheep, but there are pigs, but the pork has a fishy smell. I'm afraid the officials won't be used to it." "Lieutenant Dong, are you afraid we won't be used to it, or are you reluctant?" Seeing that the head of the village chief was about to touch his knees, Bai Shan couldn't help frowning, and said to Captain Dong County, "Okay, don't scare him." He turned his head to the village chief and said, "This county is the new magistrate, who came to inspect it. It's too late when we arrive at your village, so I'm going to stay here tonight. You can see who has a better house in the village and squeeze out the crowd. Just come and give us a room to rest." He added, "You don't have to kill chickens and sheep, just boil a pot of boiling water for us. We brought dry food here." "How can adults eat dry food?" The village chief turned his head and wanted to instruct the villagers to kill the chickens, but Bai Shan stopped him and said, "It's getting late, and now it's too late to kill the chickens and cook. We are a little tired. After eating the dry food, I will go to sleep." The village chief didn't ask anyone to kill chickens anymore. He led Bai Shan and the others to live in his house. Of course, his house couldn't accommodate so many people, so he also vacated a room in the next door neighbor's house for Wei Dong and the others. He ate dry food with boiled water, but Bai Shan, who was sleepy, pulled the village chief and said under the moonlight, "Have the rice seeds been sown in your village?" After a meal of boiled water and dry food, the look of panic on the village chief's face was much lessened. He could also see that the young official was very kind, although he did not understand why an official would be so kind to him and a commoner. Man Bao washed his face and hands, and after standing for a while, he felt that the mosquitoes were flying together. He couldn't take it anymore, so he went back to the room and took out 2 packs of medicine, one for Bai Shan and the others, and one for the yard. A fire was lit inside and it was slowly burning, and the mosquitoes circling around the horse slowly flew away or landed on the ground with a slap and couldn't move. The horse that had been restless gradually calmed down, and finally stopped walking. In the early morning, just after dawn, Bai Shan and Zhou Man woke up. After they had cleaned up, they stood in the yard of the village chief's house and looked around. The green hills were green and the fog was hazy. It really looked like a good place, but the village was surrounded by 3. The mountain is surrounded by the middle, and the road to travel is difficult to walk. Bai Shan flexed his muscles and said, "It looks quite similar to Qilai village." Man Bao asked, "How is the soil quality? Are the grain yields high?" "The situation in Zhejiagu is worse than that in Qilai village. At least there is a road in Qilai village that can lead to horse-drawn carriages. Although the road is a little bumpy, ox carts and donkey carts can go in and out anyway, and things can be sent to the county town, which can make some extra money. However, Zhejiagu is not only farther from the county seat, but also more difficult to travel. I am afraid it is difficult to get out with a scooter." "Bai Shandao, I asked about it last night. The output is average. After breakfast, I want to go see the fields in the village with the village chief. Would you like to go?" Man Bao looked up at the mountain. When he first arrived in Zhejiagu yesterday, Keek announced that there were 5 kinds of plants that they had not recorded. She said, "Go, I'll talk to the people in the village. By the way, go up the mountain and dig some herbs or something." Bai Shan nodded, stopped the village chief who wanted to kill the chicken with the knife again, and urged, "If the weather is warm, the chicken is going to lay eggs, so let's keep it. Let's take a quick breakfast and go to the field to have a look." Man Bao asked the village chief's daughter-in-law to organize the village's smart, quick-wit men, women, and children to walk them up the mountain and introduce them to the medical department. However, they couldn't understand Mandarin very well, and the dialect Manbao they spoke couldn't understand, so they could only bring 2 Yamen as translators. Although Zhejiagu is remote, It also has the advantage of being remote, that is, the herbs on the mountain are more and better than those outside. Man Bao originally just wanted to teach them to recognize several medicinal herbs that are cool and detoxifying and can prevent heat stroke, but he didn't expect to see many other medicinal herbs on the mountain. She couldn't even pretend she couldn't see. So the introduction meeting of the medical department quickly turned into, this is kudzu, Xin Liang removes the table, and can also treat waist and leg joint pain. You remember what it looks like. After digging it out and drying it, you can send it to the county to exchange money. It can be given to the medical department, or sent to the Baikatang and Renhitang, the doctors will concoct. This is Kikyo, this thing is very good, I didn't expect you to have it on the mountain, there are so many, write it down, this thing can treat sore throat. This medicine is commonly used. It is easy for adults and children to get it. In severe cases, there will be fever. Moreover, the bellflower is not cheap. I will teach you to pick it. After picking it and drying it, it will be sent to the county town for money. Not only Zhou Man had great enthusiasm for exchanging money, but the villagers also had it, so everyone looked at it with wide eyes and tried to remember their appearance in their hearts. Man Bao also taught them to keep seeds with medicinal herbs, saying, in a good place, you need to keep seeds with medicinal herbs, which is like keeping eggs for hatching. If you eat all the eggs, there will be no chickens to raise in the coming year. The same is true, if you want to continue this profitable business for a long time, you have to keep seeds for them. See you at 6 p.m. Farmer's Blessed Girl. Author, Yu Yuzu. Chapter 2877. The villagers listened carefully. Most of the people present were women, because Zhou Man said to be smart and quick to work, so most of them were young, mostly young daughters-in-law in the village in their 20s and 12 or 13-year-olds. Girl. The young people and teenagers obviously didn't want to hang out with them, so they didn't come, but the 8 or 9-year-old boys in the village were naughty years old, so they also came to join in the fun. But when it comes to making money, even if the brothers, sisters don't talk about it, they also quiet down. When the group of them descended the mountain, everyone returned with a reward, and Man Bao picked up what he wanted, even if it wasn't medicine, he was very satisfied. Coco is also very satisfied. The village is also bustling, Bai Shan is making records for them and dividing grains, and now they are almost divided. The people in Zhejiagu also kept the seeds themselves, but Bai Shan asked about the output of rice in the past year, and his instinct was to keep the best year, but I was afraid that the seeds would not be much better. Therefore, he strongly demanded that all of them plant all the grains that he had allocated, and not to eat the grains. He said, I have calculated that the grain seeds I gave you are only enough to grow 2 acres of land, and you still use your own grain seeds for the rest. This county knows that you have doubts about the new method of planting new grain seeds. The county does not force you to soak the seeds you have kept at home, but the grain seeds distributed by the yamen must use the soaking method. Most of the grains they brought were distributed, and the rest were pulled by Bai Shan to Urga village, which was also very poor at the foot of the next mountain. Urga village and Daga village are connected by a large ditch, with a smaller population and less land. Most of them are mountain forests, of course, there are more medicinal materials and various species in it. Man Bao was like a mouse that fell into the rice vat. Seeing that it was getting dark, she couldn't help but say to Bai Shan, go back tomorrow, I want to stay. Bai Shan glanced at the various flowers and trees she dug up that he seemed familiar, but couldn't name, and asked, are we not together? Man Bao said solemnly, the responsibilities are different, we have grown up, how can we be together all the time? Bai Shan, it's because we grew up that we want to be together. Man Bao refused, go back first, I want to work here. Whether it is work or digging, they both know each other well. Bai Shan watched Zhou Man for a while, and finally reluctantly compromised. I'll stay for another night, and I'll have to go back to see Liushan tomorrow. He has asked the people from the county government to inform the villagers to meet and hold a meeting in the county. Man Bao nodded and waved goodbye to him. Don't worry, I will not cause trouble, goodbye. Bai Shan clapped her hand. I'm leaving tomorrow, you'll talk to me again tomorrow. The next morning, Zhou Man happily sent Bai Shan away. As soon as he left, Zhou Man turned around and took Daji and Zibing into the mountain. Bai Shan left Daji and several guards to Zhou Man, and also left a yeoman who was proficient in the local dialect, but Zhou Man always only used to bring Daji when he entered the mountain, and at most one cake, and the others remained in the village. When Zhou Man went down the mountain with a basket on his back in the afternoon, before he reached the mountain pass, he saw the village chief leading a lot of people waiting at the mountain pass. Get up to meet you. Man Bao put down the basket, took out a few common medicinal herbs in the mountains for them to recognize, and taught them how to pick them. Some herbs are rooted, and some are used as a whole plant, but there are many herbs that only take the leaves and stems, especially some wild tea trees, which only take the tip of the bud. Man Bao found two kinds of tea trees on the mountain, neither of which has been recorded, but there are records in the encyclopedia, so Keek can call up their information as soon as he sees her. Zhuman found several bushes of wild tea trees like this on the mountain. She picked some of them and dug up 3 seedlings, which just happened to be placed in Daji's back basket. At this time, she took out the seedlings for everyone to see, and said, "This tea has the effect of clearing away heat and detoxifying, lightening the body and prolonging life. You can pick it every day, fry it dry, or put it in a pot to dry in the shade and eat it at home. I heard that it is homemade food, and everyone is not very interested." The village chief rubbed his hands and asked, "Sir, you said yesterday that there are more medicinal materials that can be harvested on the mountain to make money. I don't know what else. Here, I have collected them for you, and I will leave some samples for you later. You can take them up the mountain to compare them." Man Bao smiled and said, "There are quite a variety of medicinal materials on your mountain, so for a while. It's normal to not recognize all of them, just pick which ones you recognize, but the only thing is the same, you should pay attention to keeping the seeds. Man Baidao, you can't pick immature plants, otherwise you will pick them and send them to the county town, and the pharmacy will not accept them. You are still wasting your time, and we always have to calculate for future generations. What to pick?" The village chief nodded again and again, turned around and asked, "Have you all recorded it?" The villagers roared excitedly, "Write it down." Then Man Bao taught them at the foot of the mountain to identify the herbs she picked, and she could roughly tell where they grew and their habits. The villagers were very active in their recognition, and even the children listened carefully, but it was uncertain how much they could remember. Sure enough, before nightfall, the cries of children began to sound in the village, and Man Bao pricked up his ears to listen, and vaguely heard the angry howls of the adults. You can't remember what the adults said so clearly. "Do you eat dry food?" Then the children cried, "You didn't recognize it, you didn't remember it?" Then came the grumpy voices of the adults, "Speaking of you, how dare you talk back?" And then there's the sound of slaps. Man Bao shuddered and frowned, suspecting that he had heard it wrong, so he asked the yeoman if his translation was correct. The yeoman was surprised. "Sir, you are really amazing, can you understand what they say?" Man Bao said embarrassedly, "When they speak unhappily, they can barely understand a little bit. After all, they often said something like this yesterday. By the way, if you get sick in the future, go to the county town for consultation. Don't delay your illness." How to say? The yeoman taught her. Man Bao followed along and said it 3 or 4 times, then wrote it down, and then asked, "How about no money for medical treatment and medicine?" When Bai Shan finally met Zhou Man in another village, she was no longer the Zhou Man she was before. She has been able to chat with the old man and aunt in the village in the local non-standard dialect, and she waved excitedly when she saw Bai Shan, and then turned around and introduced Bai Shan to everyone in the poor dialect. This is my husband, also the county magistrate of Bihai County. If you have any difficulties in the future, feel free to find him. He is your parental official, and he has to take care of you if you have anything. Different from the fear they often received every time they entered the village, the old men and women nodded immediately, and then looked at Bai Shan with admiration and love. Bai Shan. See you at 10 p.m.